My name is Cody Demerais. I am a 28 Métis motivational entrepreneur from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Born and raised most of my life by a single mother, and hopefully going to share the intentions that life is what we make of it, and life is limitless as long as we believe in ourselves. My mom, of course you guys aren't very familiar with our area, she worked at Weyerhaeuser here in Prince Albert for 28 plus years. Now what Weyerhaeuser was a pulp and paper mill, okay? And my mom, of course, being a single parent for most of my life, raising me and my brother by herself, it allowed her to take care of us and allowed her to take care of the bills and everything like that, up until when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Her and 700 other people that worked at this facility or were truck drivers for this facility, they all lost their jobs in a matter of months. And it was a harsh awakening because it was a very big culture shock for us. Because my mom, of course, being a single parent, was raising both of me and my brother. And of course, she went from being able to put us in sports, put us in summer camps, or take us to the lake on a weekend here and there, right? To being the exact opposite. I remember my mom being up late at night, random nights of the week, being upset and crying because she couldn't afford the bills that were coming up. And it got very harsh for us, actually. It got to a scary point where even as a 28-year-old right now, me and my fiance will go buy groceries, and we fill our fridge, of course, with all those extras and those snacks and everything like that. And I have a little weird smile on my face because I remember what it was like to only have the necessities. And so that's more than half my life ago. And I still have that urge to smile because I feel fulfilled because I have those extras in case I want a snack later. I know it may sound a little weird, but it brings a little weird smile on my face that me and my fiance, and of course our future baby, are taken care of when it comes to something as food. But for me, and it's perfect that you guys are a hockey team, because this is how my story originated a little bit, actually. When I was about 11 years old, I got the bright idea to play hockey. And I barely stepped on skates prior to that, actually. I was Bambi on ice. I was probably the worst player on that ice for a couple seasons in a row, easily. But it's because of a family that had some money, that had a business, and the mother had a working job, a very well-paid job. They had season tickets to the Raider games here in Prince Albert. And so they knew me and my mom's situation, so they would actually offer to take me to the Raider games quite often, which even to this day I'm very thankful for because it allowed me to get introduced to that kind of lifestyle. So being at 11, 12 years old when things weren't always happy and go-lucky at my mom's house, this family would take me and allow me to experience these hockey games at a fast pace and very entertaining to watch, of course, because these young men are very skilled at what they do and they've done it for quite a few years. And one of the biggest things for me was I seen a team commitment, a team community behind something. And for me, I didn't play too many team sports growing up, so I really looked at that and I wanted to be a part of that because it looked like I enjoyed it, or it looked like they enjoyed it, right? Even though as fast-paced and high energy as they were. But of course, asking your mother to play one of the most expensive sports, one of the worst times of her life after losing that job for 28 plus years, I seen a sadness in my mom's eyes. Because of course hockey is probably one of the most expensive sports a person can play nowadays, right? and it has been for years. I unfortunately seen a sadness in my mom's eyes because she knew how hard it would be to actually, be able to support that or be able to help provide hockey for me growing up. So I had a couple decisions in my head to make. I had a couple mindsets to make, sorry. One was either forget that I wanted to play hockey and let it go and just, go on about my life. Or the second thing was to take control, even being at age 11, to understand that it's up to me to try and help provide for something that I really want. And you know what? I got a near full-time working job for a first job, cutting grass and taking care of people's yards and doing some lawn maintenance for them to help pay for that hockey registration that was a few months down the line. Now for me at 11 years old, a lot of my buddies were out at summer camps or at the lakes with their families. But for me, I understood that it's either forget about it or actually go for something and make something happen, because I see my mom struggling with bills and everything at that moment in life. So of course, at that young age, working that many hours, I'm not gonna lie, it left me a little ticked off actually. Because I would always look at my buddies that I was close with, and I would see them actually, the brother, the sister, the mom, the dad, all together, not necessarily working, right, to play all the sports, but I had to, unfortunately. And for some reason, for me, I didn't understand that it was ingrained in a good work ethic in me that made me who I am today. I actually just wish I would have known that a little bit when I was younger, unfortunately. Hello, guys. But I'll tell you right now what that did as well. It put a good work ethic in me because I learned the value of working for something that you really want in life and setting goals in front of you and making that happen, or actually the alternative, just forgetting about it and moving on in life. So for me, it is the reason why I am where I am in today, because I work very hard for the things that I do when it comes to my business, and I'll get on about that a little bit later. But without that guidance and having that extra income in my pocket, being very susceptible to anger issues and environments that I thought I belonged in, it left me very susceptible to drugs and alcohol at a very young age, unfortunately. I started drinking and doing drugs at about age 11, I think, on a continuous basis. It started experimenting, and then of course it started getting worse and worse and worse, to the point that I was grabbing alcohol from my mom's fridge, I was finding ways to get weed, I was getting very creative at trying to get these substances. And of course having my own income made it a little bit more easier for me, unfortunately, to get these things a little bit easier. See, for me at the same time, those substances I thought I was just experimenting with, but it turns out I have an addictive personality. And I didn't necessarily know that growing up. So basically for me, that means anything I do and I sort of like, I go all in, to the point that I go to the extreme, that I don't stop until I get to that point. That's just naturally who I've always been in my life. And until I learned how to structure that in a proactive, productive way, it put myself in a lot of trouble and situations, unfortunately. And of course, I gained a reputation in Prince Albert here for a lot of the kids the same age as me as being a rowdy kid, as being a druggie, as being an alcoholic kid, even at age 11 and 12 and 13. I gained this reputation that this kid's a little psycho, basically. And the truth is, I was looking for a place to belong with all these substances because I had a lack of a belonging, because I didn't necessarily know my heritage, my Métis heritage back then as much as I do now. And you know what, growing up without my father left a pretty hard spot in my heart for me, unfortunately. Some of you may be able to relate to that, some of you may not, and that's okay. Everyone's got a story that can relate in some shape or form, right? For me, the first time I met my biological father, I was about 14, 15. I went majority of my life not even knowing his first name, actually, until I found out and I reached out and I got his number because I had to put a face to the name. First of all, I had to put a name to the face first, so that was a little tough at first. But I'll tell you right now, always looking for a place to belong in life, it left me very susceptible to drugs and alcohol, like I said. And eventually I got a reputation of being a druggie, an alcoholic at a young age. And shortly, it gave me the reputation that parents didn't want their kids around me anymore because I had a bad reputation in this area. And shortly, I was pushing people away because their parents didn't want them to hang out with me because I was a bad influence. And in reality, the truth of the matter was, I was just trying to look for a place to belong, but I didn't necessarily know how to do that. So of course, building this kind of reputation of an alkie, a druggie myself, right? People would come up to me in the hallways of high school when it got to that point. Would come up to me Monday and Tuesday, the start of the week for Carlton. And they would come up to me and they'd say, "You're Cody Demerais? I heard you did this weekend, or sorry, this weekend. I heard you did that. I heard you got in a fight. I heard you got in this situation." And you know what was weird for me? After hearing enough of these stories that I was there, but I wasn't necessarily there, it gave me a feeling that, hey, you know what? I don't even have to know these people. I don't even have to give them the time of day. They're talking about me no matter what. So in a weird way, it helped me feel like I was belonging somewhere. But the truth of the matter is, it was a bad way to belong because I was just giving somebody something to talk about so they could gossip to other people about drugs and alcohol or the situations that I put myself in. And of course, that kind of reputation can only take you so far, right? Before some situations start happening that get worse and worse and worse. And of course, I was always a person, like I said, I had to do something bigger and better than last time. So of course, the stories started a little small with the trouble that I would get myself in, going to the drunk tank or situations like that. And then of course, it was me getting behind the wheel intoxicated and putting my life and somebody else's life in a dangerous situation. This kind of reputation, this kind of lifestyle, pretty much I walked through the majority of my high school time doing about the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which is the definition of Albert Einstein's insanity, actually. Doing the same actions over and over again, expecting different results. It all led to a night, actually, that changed my life. For the worse for a few years, but it then changed it for the better after I found a way to cope with things. About a week before grade 12 started, me and my best friend were at a high school party. We were drunk, we were whatever we were, and you know what, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and our sober driver, our DD, actually wants to go home. And he asked us if we want a ride to go home. And of course, being 17, 18, 19 like we were, we didn't think about it. We thought we had plenty more energy, and you know what, we're going to continue partying because we're young and we're bulletproof and we don't care. Of course, up until half an hour later, for some reason, we get the idea that we want to leave. But it's my vehicle in front of that house party. It's my car sitting by the driveway. Of course, it's my keys in my pocket, and I'm intoxicated. And at this point, not necessarily thinking things through very good. So me and my best friend, we get behind the wheel. We're intoxicated. And we start driving. We start driving to the point where we were going double the speed limit actually here in Prince Albert, going about 116 kilometers per hour. To put that in perspective for some of you younger guys and whatnot, that's more than double the speed limit here in Prince Albert, of course. And me and my best friend were looking at each other. We were telling a joke. Everything was good. We were on top of the world. Then I take my eyes off the wheel, of course, right? And he's looking at me. And then, like the matter of seconds, I look back and we're headed towards a tree. And unfortunately, as many of you are well aware, trees don't bounce. They're not elastic, right? So you hit a thick enough tree, you're going to do some damage, unfortunately. We hit this tree going about 116. And I knocked myself out. And I woke up shortly after, and I look over at my best friend, and he's passed out, laying on the dashboard, until I start realizing something. And I'm looking around trying to get the wits about me. And then I realized something, that he didn't have a seatbelt on. And then I looked on my dashboard, because that's where he was laying. I see a big smash, as if somebody threw a big gigantic boulder at the front of the windshield from inside the car. Of course, we didn't have a rock inside the car, so his head was a couple inches away, so I automatically assumed that it was his head that went into the windshield and made that damage, unfortunately. And I tried to wake up my best friend, shrugged him, raised my voice a couple times, and then he wasn't waking up. And I realized something, that maybe he's not going to wake up. Maybe this situation just got really real. Of course, I pass out because I don't know what to do, and my adrenaline and my alcohol in my body are getting me to start thinking of what's the worst what's the worst possible cause next, right? And I pass out and I wake up in an ambulance the second time. And I remember thinking to myself that my best friend's not going to make it out of that car. And I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, I would never wish that upon anyone. I would never wish that feeling upon anyone, because it was one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life. And this is why I tell this story, because I believe there's some learning lessons behind it. And I believe there's very powerful tools. As long as you listen to this story and take it for your future selves and make the right decisions in your life. And I only hope that when it comes to that time, if you're ever in that situation, you make the right decision, you make the right call, and you don't do that yourself. Because it doesn't end very well, okay? And I'm living proof and living example of that. Well, my best friend, he was on his way to Saskatoon Hospital because he has severe brain swelling, and they had to put him in a self-induced coma because he had major bleeding spots all over his brain from the impact, unfortunately. And the nurses and doctors told me when I got to the Prince Albert Hospital that they had to do the very best that they could to actually save his life, because he was inches without making it. That's what the doctors and nurses said to me. And you know what? I laid in the Prince Albert Hospital for a few hours because of it. After I woke up, I begged my mom to take me home. And for a couple of weeks, well, my best friend was in the Saskatoon Hospital, hooked up to a few machines. I sat in my bedroom, basically stared at a blank wall, cried for quite a few hours, like continuously. I let every emotion that I had out at that wall, even though I wasn't staring at anything. I was just staring at a blank wall, because I had no idea what else to do. And then, you know what? A few people come by the house and they ask me if I'm okay, and somebody mentions that, yeah, we talked to his parents, he's not going to make it through the night, unfortunately. His brain's going to give out on him. And of course, that was another one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life, and I never wanted that, of course, because he was my best friend, and I wasn't a person that ever wanted to hurt somebody, but I made a bad mistake, and it happened. So that night, not to get into too much detail, but that was a night I didn't want to be around anymore. And I tried to act on that situation. And I tried to act on that impulse. And to brighten the side a little bit, obviously all you ladies and gentlemen can see that I'm still here. And I truly think it's a blessing, and I thank the higher power, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, that it's a blessing that I'm still here. And I promise you, it was a place in my life that I never wanted to be, but I found myself. So I survived that situation. Of course, like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's not why you guys came to PA. Okay? But you know what? A lot of people didn't give my best friend chances to survive either. A lot of people said all the swelling in his brain, he was going to turn into a vegetable and he wasn't going to be the same person as he was going to be. But you know what? We went through grade 12 together. He spent a few months in the hospital bed and doing physiotherapy and everything like that, trying to put his life back together. And I basically had to go to court every second or third month to try to get my court case adjourned because I knew I was going to jail for my situation. I knew eventually I messed up enough that I was going to go get sentenced to go to jail. Now, we graduated together, and thankfully it was a heck of a celebration because a lot of people didn't think we were going to make it that far, but we did. But shortly after, about a month and a half after, while everyone's going to university and college and everything like that, or starting careers or starting families even, I unfortunately am getting sentenced to go to the men's correctional here in Prince Albert. I'll tell you right now, it was not one of my proudest moments in life. It's not a moment it's not a moment I was thinking I was going to reach ever. But unfortunately, it was a situation that happened. So unfortunately, I served my few months that they gave me. I got out on New Year's Eve, one heck of a day and night to get out, start a new year, start a fresh year. And who's there to come see me? My best friend that was in that car crash with me, thankfully, because he survived. And you know what? He didn't only survive, he became an ultimate inspiration because he started his own construction business with a hammer and nails. And now he has about 5 or 6 guys that work for him on a continuous basis. And he's building cabins and he's building huge buildings, at the lakes and everything like that. And he's actually became quite an inspiration to me in the first place. But I'll tell you right now, after all that time away and everything like that, I thought I was going to be able to put my life back together. But I still had a lot of issues in my head. I was still dealing with a lot of PTSD. Unfortunately, I was still dealing with a lot of substance abuse issues because I didn't take care of all the depression and the anger that I had going on inside of me. So my addictions snuck back on me a little bit. And it got to the point where my drug addictions took me to the basements and environments that I wouldn't wish upon anyone else either as well. I remember one place my drug addictions took me was in a basement, just seeing a few people smoking meth. And I'll tell you right now, the first time ever in my life that I seen that, it scared me a great deal because I only seen it on movies at that time, right? I never thought that was going to become my reality, but my decisions made it very real to me, and seeing this in person, of course. It was up until I almost overdosed a few years ago, back to back. Because I would stay up drinking and doing drugs for 2 or 3 days at a time. And I remember laying in the hospital bed here in Prince Albert for I don't know how many times in my life, thinking that I had more to offer this world than what I was truly offered. I had something more to give this world than what I was truly leaving behind. Because you know what? I was told 2 things were going to happen in my life if I didn't turn my life around at a young age. The 2 things were, one, I was going to go to jail some point in my life if I didn't turn things around. The second, I was going to end up dead before I started beginning to live life. And when you're told those 2 things when you're age 16, you don't necessarily believe it's true. Until, of course, when you're 19, and you have hands on the jail cell here in Prince Albert, and you're shaking your head as one of those things became a reality. And the second thing that became a reality for me was that I actually realized that, you know what, I came close to overdosing a couple times back to back. And it made me shake my head again because I realized what that lady told me when I was about 16 years old could become a very possible reality for me. My mom may be going to my funeral if I didn't turn things around eventually. So it made me have to start switching my mindset that, you know what, I'm only leaving this world in a worse place. I'm only leaving it in a worse off situation. And you know what, I'm acting like the victim because the world gave me such unfair chances and everything of this matter. But then I started realizing when I was 11 years old, I made a decision in my life to go and help pay for hockey. That was a time in my life that I believed that I had the power to do something and turn my life around. And that's what I did. You know what? I started to believe in myself. I started to believe that I had more to offer this world than just being an addict. And you know what? I knew I had the power within me to put myself in the right situations, the right settings, the right dynamics to actually turn my life around. I started seeing counselors, I started seeing therapists, I started talking to anyone who I could possibly talk to because I knew I couldn't handle with all the bad stuff that I had going on in my head. I couldn't handle it by myself. And that's okay. You know what? I don't think that's a weakness. I think that's actually one of the strongest things you can do in life. So when you can't take care of something, you ask for a little assistance. And there's people out there in this world that are truly compassionate and caring individuals that are very educated and that truly care about other people. You just have to be willing to allow them to help you, and that's exactly what I did. I found the help that I needed. I took care of a lot of flaws that I had deep down inside of me by chatting with a lot of people. And you know what? I also started doing this public speaking thing, as you see right now. I tell you right now, you ask majority of the world what their biggest fear is, majority of the people say public speaking. It is not the easiest thing to do, and I still get nervous and I get still shy and super awkward once in a while. But I'll tell you right now, being half an hour and hearing Mona say, you know what, come speak for our people, maybe it was a perfect timing because it didn't allow me to get nervous and shy. For the better for me. I saved up a paycheck and a half when I was working as a youth worker with Youth at Risk here in Prince Albert. And I bought my first 100 t-shirts. And I created a clothing brand called Limitless gear. And I had 100 t-shirts in my car, and I would meet buddies at gas stations, at their, in their driveways, and I would deliver t-shirts telling people that, you know what, if you believe in it enough, you can make beautiful things happen. That was about 5 years ago. I started with about 100 t-shirts. Speed this story up a little bit. For the past 2 years, I've had a full retail store in Prince Albert, actually, for this brand, for this business that I started 5 years ago out of the trunk of my car with about 100 t-shirts. And about 5 months ago, I was actually named Saskatchewan's Young Entrepreneur of the Year for my business and for my public speaking. In 37 years, those business awards that I won that award for, everyone out of Prince Albert that's ever ran a business or everyone that's ever won one of those categories for those business awards in 37 years. Richard Hennique, he's a friend of mine, he's the general manager at Northern Lights Casino here. He told me there's only been about 5 or 6 people in those 37 years to win one of those ABEX awards. That's from Prince Albert. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of people don't believe our homes are as beautiful as they are, but you make your home as beautiful as you are wherever you are. You make those opportunities as beautiful as you are, or as they can be, and it doesn't matter what most of the people think about your home communities. A lot of people actually have some bad things to say about Prince Albert once in a while. It's unfortunate because, you know what, this is where I chose to live my life, this is where I chose to start my business, and you make your life as beautiful as you ever want, no matter what the perception is, right? The grass is not always greener on the other side. And when I started believing that, when I started believing there's a beautiful life here and there's more to offer this world than what I was believing that I could offer in the first place, that's when my life started to turn around. It's when I started to believe in those kind of things. That's why I plan on doing this public speaking thing, this motivational speaking thing on international stages one day. Hopefully workshops about mental health and success and setting goals. because I definitely believe it is something that our world needs more than ever. And I would love nothing more to be that person, because at one time I didn't believe I was going to amount to much. The truth is, I definitely believe I can amount to as much as I put my mind to. And every single one of you should do the same. One of the quotes I love to end my presentations off with is, once you believe you have the ability and capacity to do great things, that's when life becomes limitless. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have ADHD, so I appreciate you.